Okay, so we're starting to get to the bhavas and houses in regards to our exploration of astrology, at least in regards to the Q&A. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean that you can't ask questions about the Rashis and signs. The way I want to do this really is such that we kind of build upon our previous Q&As. So you can always ask questions about stuff that we've already talked about, but try to hold your questions for future topics until we get there, or contact your tutor or Fiona. Either one will be able to help. But let's get to these questions that we have, and they're all pretty coherent, meaning they're all going to fit together pretty well. First question we have for today. Okay, first question. With respect to Rashis and signs, or bhavas and houses, we know Rashis and signs and bhavas are houses. When you look at a chart, do you think it makes a difference if a person analyzes the characteristics of the Rashi or the bhava first? It seems like the waters get muddy when you start to consider the significance of each Rashi and bhava. Should a person have an ascendant other than Aries? Okay, so there's more to this question, but I just want to focus on this first section to begin. Now, when you're looking at a house and when you're looking at a Rashi, really, you're not looking at them independently. So this is why the way the apprenticeship program is set up, such that we take a moment to consider the Rashis and what are they about, and how do we, in a sense, judge what the Rashis are up to, what they're contributing to a chart, what kind of color or details are they going to give to a chart. But then we have to study the bhavas and houses to see, okay, well, now that we have the color, now we have the details, well, what does that set of paints apply to? And so once we know what the bhavas are, once we know what the houses are, then we can look at how the two combine. So the way the class is set up is, yes, we look at the Rashis and signs first, and then we go to the bhavas and houses. But that's only because I like to encourage people to look at one piece of the puzzle at a time and then stick them together. So when you're looking at Rashis and signs, or the bhavas and the houses, you're not doing it separately. So you know what's going on in the Rashi, you look at the house or the bhava, and you combine those two things, because really, you don't have a chart without the houses. So you can't look at it separately. Now, the follow-up question to this, for example, if the first house is Cancer, then Cancer holds the energy of both the first and the fourth bhava to some degree. The first house will also carry more masculine energy than in another case, as the first bhava is odd and masculine. But Cancer, being originally the fourth Rashi, is owned by Chandra. Okay, so we have to kind of tease out the idea of the Rashis and houses. So we can think of Cancer as, in a sense, a natural fourth house. And that's really just for convenience, to help us kind of understand the quality of the sign of Cancer. So if we have Cancer as the first house, and so we have fourth Rashi, first house, then we simply consider, well, what is the first house about? The first house is about how we present ourselves in life, how people see us, our personality, the details in a sense of who we are as an individual. All right, that's what we know about the first house. Now, if it's Cancer, then we know that there are going to be Cancerian qualities related to that person's first house presentation. So they may have more, in a sense, of a motherly energy. They may be more attached to their home. They might be more kapha in nature. They might be more caring and nurturing, helping things grow. So what we're doing there is we're looking at the qualities of Cancer, and then it's going together with the energies of the first house, but they're not separate. Now, if I'm interpreting kind of the main meaning behind this question, I've said this, and other astrologers have said this too, is that you can get confluence by looking at, in a sense, the zodiac as though it is just the general primordial blueprint of all of us. So, for example, let's say a person has malefic planets in the fourth house, cruel planets in the fourth house. And we also see that there are cruel planets in Cancer. So what we're able to kind of tie together there is this confluence, this mutual combinations of energy, of difficulty and maybe strain or stress in things related to fourth house matters and fourth sign matters. So the question makes sense, but always remember that really what it comes down to is the Rashi provides the details, the color, the flavor, and the house itself provides the specifics. And if you think about it that way, then it helps this kind of fit together a little bit better. Now, another question we have here. Similarly, there are so many aspects of bhavas that were not discussed in your book or probably in this course, like the internal and external energies of the adityas. Sounds like you've been studying with Ernst. If one has sought to learn more about such forces and divine figures, when do you advise a person working with such knowledge? It's a great question. And I was actually just kind of doing a little video on this yesterday as I was revamping the introduction to the Asheville Vedic Astrology apprenticeship course. So there's absolutely no way that one can cover the entirety of astrology in a 2 to 4 year course. And so when I created this course, having learned from Richard Fish, having spent time studying with David Frawley, having Ernst Wilhelm as a friend and access to just talking with him and going over different rationale and exploring different techniques and so on. And also having access to his body of work, which, as many of you know, is immense and I think is overwhelming, worth studying. But when I created this course, my goal was to focus on the principles that I have personally found work more often than not, 80 to 90% of the time. Those core principles that if you had that information, you could stick it together, you're going to be a very accurate astrologer. These other things, like looking at the internal and external energies of the adityas, or even getting into the divinities related to the Vargas and so on. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look into. I think that stuff is fascinating. I think it's interesting. I don't know how practical it is. I think when a person has a good foundation and also a highly developed intuition, those kinds of things can be very helpful. So the simple answer to your question would be this. Once you complete what I'm considering to be the foundations, this particular course of study through the Asheville Vedic Astrology apprenticeship program, then I would say you have the discernment, hopefully, you have the discernment and you have the preparation to start exploring these other aspects of the chart, these deeper aspects of the signs, the bhavas and the vargas and so on. And then you try it out for yourself, because once you've gone through this, you know the basics. And so now you can apply it and plug these new ideas in and see what happens. And then you learn yourself, you learn how these things work. And that's what I do. And, I'm actually going to be seeing Ernst here next week. I'm doing a Kriya Yoga workshop out near his house. So we'll be spending a lot of time together. And what I enjoy about spending time with Ernst is that while he has this vast body of knowledge, and his mind is always in astrology. I mean, it's just It's just he's an encyclopedia of all this stuff, more than I even care to know about. And we have these conversations, and what I enjoy about the time with him is that he is absolutely open to looking into specifics, and he is absolutely open to entertaining doubts, because there's been numerous things that I'm picking on him because I know he's really deep into this stuff. I think Michael Reed is also very deep into these new kinds of things, or new ways of looking at ancient things. There are many things that I have not agreed with, and through that interaction, we've actually kind of refined in our own application of these techniques and principles, even with the nakshatras, how they work. So, simple answer to your question is, if it were me, I would say, get what is in this apprenticeship program as solidly in your awareness as you can. Once you've got that, I fully believe that you have the capacity to explore and understand these other principles. And that's why I didn't touch upon these principles myself. So there you go. Next question.